Talking about teams and community and collaboration, all that is like one of my favorite things ever. I could just sit there and talk about it all day. I'm a total nerd when it comes to that. And I love worship, but the people side of it is my absolute favorite. And so that will flow even into our conversation today. I'm going to throw some ideas out, and then I would love to have time for a conversation and real life application, because there's only so much benefit to just hearing a bunch of stuff when it may or may not actually, like, how does it apply to my context is what I'd be thinking the whole time. Like, that's cool, but my church looks like blank, or my team has this random thing going on or that thing going on. I have had the privilege of working with adults and students. Maybe you find yourself only having students or only having adults, or you have a blend of both. I don't know. So it'll be great to just have conversation as we talk about that. But I think I want to first talk about why do we care about building teams, about leadership pipeline, about investing in the next generation. I think there are so many people in the world who don't know Jesus. And I think that we need to make space for those people. And how do we make space? Because you and I can't be everywhere. We can't build teams everywhere. We can't lead worship everywhere. We can't be pastors or singers or instrumentalists everywhere. So we need more people. We need to make space. We need to build teams and have a broader reach so that as many people as possible can be in moments where they experience the presence of God, and it can change their life forever. So to me, that's why I care. I don't build to build. I always think if there's a day that I just find myself building for the sake of building, then I probably should sit down and just stop doing it, because my motivation is real off, for what I'm doing. So I think here's the biggest things: relationship and community, they matter. Team camaraderie matters. People, second to God, are the priority. And so that's just the biggest thing for me. And so I want to paint a picture of what does it look like to have, what would a thriving team look like? And I get that it can be a little subjective. So I'm just going to give you an idea. An idea to me is a place where we have multi-generational leadership happening, right? We have all these different people. You are looking up and learning from people who are ahead of you in the journey. That may be in age or it may just be in skill, but you're also looking this way and you're pouring into somebody else who's coming up with you. And you're encouraging the person who maybe is at the same level that you're at. And I think we're always in a healthy team context looking to duplicate and actually replace ourselves. A lot of people fear being replaced as if it means you're replaceable, but it in fact is not. To be replaced is to be an incredibly healthy leader, and it means to make space, like we're talking about. The biggest bummer when I look back someday would be if I realized that I was so afraid of being replaced that I accidentally became the lid to what I hoped would be, and all the growth I thought would happen. And so those are just some key things here. And I think, we're not, we do have practical things we have to do. We have to fill teams, right? Like Sunday is coming and you really hope somebody's showing up in your band, and you have to have worship sets and you have to prep, and you gotta, I don't know, your church, maybe you print music. We're like half and half. We got memorizers, iPad people, print old school people, person who broke their iPad last week, so now they need printed music people, all that kind of thing. But we're not just doing those things. Like, we're really cultivating and building worshipers, and we're building leaders. And the ideal leader would be somebody who is also trying to cultivate this culture of development. And so we're going to talk about that in a few different areas. And the first one is recruiting. I find recruiting really fun. I'm going to be honest. Most people, I feel like it can seem like, I don't know, it can seem, I think, overwhelming, or it can seem like you're asking somebody to give you something, as if you're taking something from them. But I think, to me, when it depends on your perspective. Let me put it this way. So in my perspective, God has given everybody gifts and talents and abilities, and they're part of the body. And so when I am like, let's put it in a worship context. Hey, like, you play guitar. I heard you play the guitar. and we're looking for more guitar players. Here's what our team's about. Cast big vision. I'm giving opportunity. I'm adding a moment, a space for them to step into a really important part of their spiritual journey, which is service, which is being a part of a faith community. Relationship with the Lord is not sitting in the back and sneaking out right when the pastor's doing the closing prayer. Like, we all hear the shufflers. We've all been the shuffler, let's just be honest, at some point, who's grabbing our purse or whatever while the prayer is already happening. But like, really, community and being a part of stuff, and community happens a lot through service. That's how you meet people. Maybe you're in a smaller church, so you just know everybody. Maybe you've been there your whole life, and so you're related to everybody. I don't know. But what if you walk into a bigger church and you're like, I don't even know how to meet anybody? Well, serving is like an awesome way to do that. So in my mind, it's not an ad or even an ask. It's an opportunity for you to be a part of something bigger than yourself, to be a part of something God has in store. But I'm definitely never somebody who's going to like pressure. Like, I've heard people say like, God has a plan for your life and so do I. I'm definitely not about that mantra. I'm not going to hunt you down until I convince you to be a part of the team. Like, that's not fun. I'm not like in the lobby, like, looking for everybody. I do think that serving is fun. I do think worship teams are fun. And I'm going to be honest with you. I always think, why wouldn't you want to be on this team? It's going to be an awesome Sunday. Everybody should want to be a part of this team. That would make it weird because there'd be nobody in the seats. But like, but that's just how I view it. And I think like, because I've just experienced it to be such a fun, life-changing, life-giving thing. And so I think that's part of just the recruiting, just not fearing that you're asking somebody or taking time from them or doing something. Really, you're offering this really cool moment in their life and opportunity. Also, I think just like not discounting anybody. I remember I have led student teams as well as adult teams. And so we had this student team once, actually at the church that I was at with Adam. And they wanted their friend to be on the worship team so bad, but this kid played no instruments. So they literally all brought him to me and were like, he is going to audition on the bongos. And they brought out these drums. Nobody on the team was playing the bongos, but I was like, go for it. Let's see what happens. Maybe he's really good at bongos, and this is what we've been missing this whole time. And so, our whole team dynamic is going to change with this drum kid. Okay, he wouldn't even, tap the drum. He was like, no. And so I was like, okay, whatever, right? I don't think this kid ever wants to be on the team. Well, I just, about a month or so later, start to see him with another kid on the team coming downstairs every Sunday right after church, and they're both holding guitar cases. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. I didn't know he plays the guitar. And then I just kept seeing it happen. Here they'd come over and over and over, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. And the student who I knew played the bass. And so I was kind of like, are they playing bass up there? What are they doing? And then a few months later, they said again, okay, he wants to audition. And I'm like, is he really going to audition? Is this going to happen? What's going to happen? You guys, he auditioned. And when I tell you, out of nowhere, this kid who couldn't even play a bongo or wouldn't, was the best bass player on the entire team. It turns out he has incredible natural talent and amazing musical skill. And he just had to find the right thing, for what he wanted. So don't count somebody out. You just never know. It turns out he just didn't want to play the bongos, and he probably felt a lot of pressure in that moment, to be there, and who wants to do that? You don't want to do it for pressure. You want to do it because you love it. You're passionate about it. So don't count people out. And I think really be clear. Something that helps me is I understand what I'm asking. So I'm telling you, what are we about as a church, as a team? But then I'm giving you a real practical breakdown. Okay, you're a worship leader, you're BGVs, you're an MD, you're an instrumentalist, maybe you're production. Some churches that's a separate category, I know, but we're not all that fortunate. So it's under one banner usually. And so what does it mean to do that on this team? I want you to clearly understand what I think is happening if you say you want to do this as a part of our church and the team. And then think outside the box. I'm not saying go out a tuba player necessarily, but you could. It could be fun. But you just never know. Lots of people are looking to get involved in something, and they may just not fit in a traditional role. So I am blessed to work with teams in multiple departments, for lack of a better term, at our church, one of which is our youth department. And so one of the things that somebody said to me right when we started kind of helping people get involved was, you know what you should do is you should build a prayer team that prays specifically for the students and the leaders who invest in them every week. And so I made some phone calls and I emailed some people. And you know what? Some of these people can't even make it to the building. Like they're physically unable to even come, but now they're a part of serving. They're a part of a team. I connect with them every week. They're a part of something bigger. They hear all the updates about the students and what God's doing in their lives. And so sometimes you just think outside of the box within a context that fits and matches your church's vision. Obviously, like I said, I also have a student who loves the accordion and he's super good, but I just don't know that that's really going to be like a Sunday thing all the time. And so, yeah, so I would just say that. So here's something that I want to take a minute and talk about. And I think there's enough of us that maybe we could go in like pairs or groups of 3 and just talk amongst ourselves for a minute. I want us to talk about what are some common barriers in each of our contexts and how can we creatively solve them. I think one of the coolest things is being able to anticipate reasons why somebody wouldn't be able to serve and just being able to like resolve it before it's even a thing. Like we have a lot of people who have many kids, small children, who want to serve. And I'm like, awesome, there's childcare for you. Before you can even tell me that you can't do it because you have kids, I'm going to tell you that there's childcare. There's people who are going to love your kids every week, and it's going to be awesome. Come be a part of this. And I think we all have things in our churches that make people think they can't serve, but they want to. So I would love to just take a couple of minutes, and I'll kind of watch the clock here and talk about what are some reasons people maybe have turned you down, or have said no, or you think would say no. And how can we creatively solve them? Actually, if you talk to somebody not from your church, it'd probably be better because they might have a different perspective and not be just stuck in a, well, that's because they can't. They can't because of this at our church. Maybe some fresh eyes would be good perspective. But I'm going to give us a couple minutes, and then I'd just love to hear what you guys have to say, to just pair up and talk about it. Well, we will wrap up our conversation. I know we could talk about barriers and resolving them forever. Because as teams evolve and grow, there'll always be new barriers and new things. I'd love to hear from a few people what are some barriers and what are creative ways that maybe you talked about trying to work them out. Yeah, I think there's no perfect answer, but I think there is a lot of things at our particular church right now that we've just been trying and seeing. I think we'll call them calculated risks, right? Like trying different things and being willing to be flexible if it does or doesn't work. And so with our students in particular, we started having a student-led team. So there are adults on the team. A heartbeat of our church is development. So adults are on the team and helping lead and grow and playing alongside. And then more advanced students are playing alongside new ones, right? You always have this chain, kind of like we were talking about. There's a couple of things that help overcome, I think, some of the barriers of fear of the quality. One, it always matters. There's not a lesser gathering. So I'm going to preface this with saying that the youth gathering I don't view as like less important of a standard than a Sunday. I think you're worshiping the same God, so it should be the same. But there is something to be said about, okay, adults who are nervous about serving. I'm going to also be clear, safe adults who are nervous about serving on a Sunday, somewhere like youth is actually a decent spot to bring them to practice because it's less scary because those students aren't their peers. So one way that we overcome it with adults is we just give them another opportunity that isn't as scary as Sunday, because Sunday can seem scary. It can also seem like we just have this quick rehearsal and you have to produce, right? Like there's not learning time. There always is produce, right? The gathering's coming in an hour. So there's pressure, is what I'm trying to say. So coming on Wednesdays, some of the adults that you would have seen around, some of them is because they are terrified to be there on a Sunday. And like I said, we vetted to make sure that they're safe people to be around students, but so it doesn't work for every individual, but they play there. And then on the student side, students get really excited and they want to learn when they feel like they're given an opportunity to do something and be part of something. So they learn really fast, actually, and they get excited. So I'm not so concerned all the time about quality, but we do a couple of things to help, because worship time being distracting, meaning like, a bunch of clunker notes all the time or something weird happening, is a real thing. It can be really distracting, and we still want people to engage in worship and the worship leader to really be leading and not always be like, oh my gosh, like the guitar player is in the totally wrong key and like this is happening, because we've all been there. It happens, like, um, and where I'm trying to let other like students, learn to be worship leaders. And if they're freaking out about what's going on, like they're not even going to remember what they were supposed to say, like to try to lead for the first time or do something. So one of the biggest things is this. One, we partner with more advanced people. They stand in pairs, kind of like you saw. There's people helping them. You can have two drummers, but you can have somebody sitting there, and helping. The other thing is tracks. I'm just going to be real. You take it out as they learn, but just let them like be in a safe place where they don't feel so exposed. Like they're just learning how to play chords, and now like they're just standing there for the whole world, like all their peers to hear. It's very intimidating. I think that as an adult, and I would think that as a student. So we do supplement with tracks in that way, just to help them feel like they can get their footing without like feeling like, oh my gosh, then if I hit a wrong note, like everybody there's just this enormous pressure. And then as they grow, okay, we'll pull that part out of the track. Like, now the acoustic player is strong, great. They don't need a buddy, anymore in those things. Those are some things that we've tried. I'm not a fan of putting tracks of things that are there and are working, but as an assistant to help teach them or help make it possible for you to learn and also have a non-distracting gathering. It can be a nice tool in the interim to us. Yeah. Anybody else barriers that you want to share? Or on our youth team right now, meaning like all youth leaders, not necessarily all musicians, we've been having a similar situation. We usually huddle and like kind of talk through the night and pray as a team and share things that are coming up and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a time to kind of ground ourselves spiritually and unify as a team and build camaraderie. And we've been struggling to have that time because we have leaders showing up at like random times and kids coming crazy early, which is like so cool. Like, I'm really glad they want to be there. They think it's a fun place, and then half of them are on the team because we're developing, right? So then we're on the team, and I'm usually been initiating and leading those huddles, but then sometimes like I am on another team and holding multiple roles or different things. And so it's actually something I was thinking about today, like how are we going to overcome this timing barrier, because the last 2 weeks it's been a barrier and I don't really foresee that changing. I think sometimes I was just brainstorming to myself like, well, okay, we can try a different time. We can decide we're going to do it at this time, even though there's already these other things happening. I don't know that I love that choice, but it's a choice. Or we go about it in a totally different format, and maybe we have a conversation on a different day or via a video call, or it's a message. I've just been brainstorming lots of ideas, and so I would just, encourage you to think outside the box. I know that we're not always able to have more people. Sometimes we just use what is there, and sometimes we're limited for many reasons why that could be a thing, but also incorporating other people who don't have a role and that is their sole role would be my ideal scenario, even for myself in this situation, right? That the team would be big enough that these people, that would be their role, so they're not conflicted and running between two things. Which really leads me into the second thing. So you can recruit like crazy and try. I'm just always recruiting. I mean, the worst thing somebody's going to say is no, but the truth is the answer was already no if you didn't ask. So just talk to everybody and be friendly. And and when your team gets excited, they start recruiting too. That's the cool part. Like suddenly just new people start joining the team and want to join the team because they met this person who's on the team and now they're friends, and it becomes this really cool dynamic. But this idea of leadership pipeline is huge, and having people who do these different things so that one person isn't, or even a handful of people aren't carrying multiple roles at a time, because it's really hard to do multiple things at a time. In our context, we're kind of like worship leaders and gathering coordinators at the same time. And like, that sounds really easy until something starts going wrong while you're on the stage leading worship and you can't do anything about it. Like, right? So we have things like that. So Here's something that helps me when I'm thinking about like developing other leaders who can take things. I look first at the people who are currently serving, and I assess, where are they right now? Maybe practically, maybe it's a musician, and so I'm thinking, okay, as a guitar player, where are they right now in their skill? But I'm also assessing, are they a doer or are they an owner? And let me differentiate for you. Both are really important. Every team needs both doers and owners. But doers are usually the people who want to serve on your team maybe one time a month, two times a month, and they're going to come and they're going to do it great. Like they're just going to be this really solid bassist 2 Sundays a month, and they're going to be there and they'll be present, and then that's it. That's what they're doing. That's their role. They're going to accomplish tasks that you put in front of them. So whatever you tell them to do, they're going to do it. Owners catch the vision of what's happening. They catch the idea of multiplication, of development, of team, of where you're going as a team and as a church, and they begin to duplicate it wherever they go. They just begin to really take charge, and they own it. And so where is everybody on your team musically? But where are they in this? Are they doers? Are they owners? And then something else I do is I take, so let's take a worship team, for example, right? We're at a worship conference. So let's take a worship team and break it into a few, let's call them quadrants. Areas that you could use to help give people opportunity when you see like, okay, I think this person could be an owner, or maybe you're unsure, right? You've probably heard the phrase, basically like, how do you know if you can trust somebody? You trust them, right? And you see what happens. And so one way you could break it up, you could do it a million different ways that fits your context. So I'm just going to give an example. Maybe you have an overarching banner of worship in your church. So worship would be Sunday gatherings. Maybe it's your youth gatherings. Maybe your kids' gatherings have worship. I'm not suggesting they all have full bands, right? Your kids might be a video and motion people, right? And production. So you'd have these 4 quadrants, and then look at like, what are the practical things that happen to make those things reality? And now when you look back at your list, is there someone on that list who has the skills and the vision to be an owner of one of these areas? If somebody is like not willing to be goofy, they're not the kids person. I'll just tell you that right now, right? Like you need somebody who will do the motions and dance and be silly, but also who's a teacher and is explaining like, what is worship? Why do we worship? And giving opportunity. And so look at those. And what I think you'll find, and what I found, is either you're going to realize, okay, here's my 4 areas, and here's 4 people, and these are like literally their gifts, or I have one person who fits this one in these other 3 quadrants right now. My name would be next to them. Not because I'm the best at all of them, but because somebody's name has to be next to them. And currently I'm the one holding the bag, right, for all of them. And then you, over time, have to find people to take those over. And so sometimes that's developing more from within, and sometimes it's bringing in fresh people, fresh perspective, both and. And so I think those are really important things, because like this situation at camp, you can't be everywhere, you can't do everything, and the structure of having like, this is the worship pastor, so that means they do everything, I just don't really think has health in the long run. What happens if you are sick and you miss a Sunday and nobody else has ever led worship or knows how to do anything or knows how to turn the soundboard on or has a password to print music or has a key to the church or has, what if nobody else has ever done any of these different things? They've never led a rehearsal. Right? There's just practical things that go into it. You can never be gone. That's nuts. You got to take a vacation. So families take vacations. People take vacations. So this is why, and it just gives people opportunity to grow. Like everybody wants to go somewhere. We talked about not being the lid. As long as you hang on to everything, nobody else ever gets an opportunity. So you just lead like this. So it'd be really interesting to think about on our teams right now. Do we have people that we think like our owners and could take things off our plate, not because we don't care about them or want to do them, but to give them opportunity, and also because we can't do it all. That's just a silly thing to think we can. You're going to get tired. It's just not going to be fun after a while. And I am a huge fan of it's way more fun when we're doing it all together. If you see my office at any given time, there's people in it. And that is so much better to me. I do not want to just sit there in weird silence all day. I'd way rather be doing stuff. I do almost nothing alone because I'm always trying to duplicate myself, always trying to teach somebody else how to do something and hand it over. My ultimate goal is to replace myself all the time. That's what I'm trying to do all the time, work myself out of my role. And I love my role. So it's not because I don't want to do it. I just love watching people get to do it more. A few weeks ago, we had a cool opportunity where we got to have some of our youth students on the team with us. And I probably looked ridiculous because I don't think I could have smiled bigger while leading worship when I thought about the fact that standing on both sides of me and behind me playing instruments were all these students who are learning and growing and thinking about how far they've come in their leadership. And I thought to myself, the day that it's hard to believe that I'd be happier than right now, but the day I'll be the most happy is when I'm in the seat and they're leading without me. That will be the coolest moment ever. And I will look like a total Goomba on that front row with a huge smile and clapping. And I will be like their fake parent who's mouthing the words and doing all this stuff. Like, what a proud day, that is. And that's the cool part of being part of something that develops leaders and grows people. So I want to take another few minutes and just talk about practically, you may not be able to in an instant, because there could be a lot of people on your team, delegate your area like into 4 different categories and be like, yep, this one's Deb, this one's Tim, this one's this person. Maybe you can, but maybe there's just one area that you could delegate in the next month, in the next 2 months. You just start somewhere, right, with something, and begin to cultivate this culture of delegation and development and team collaboration. So I would love to give you guys time to think and talk again. What's 1 or 2 things you can begin to delegate? And how can you begin to duplicate and or replace yourself over even the next month? And I get that's a small amount of time. So I'm not saying monumental task like you lead every Sunday and suddenly you don't in 30 days. But even just a small thing. So I'd love to give a few minutes and then we'll talk about it. Well, I know our time is closing pretty quick, so we'll wrap up conversations. I know too, even as we're talking, maybe some people are thinking, well, I am like a background vocalist. I don't run a whole department, or I do this. How do I duplicate? How do I delegate? And I was thinking about that too, and thinking I've actually heard multiple worship pastors today talking about how they run vocal rehearsals prior to their full team ones. And I just want to pose the idea too, as you're thinking as an instrumentalist or a vocalist, specifically the idea that like, what if you ran those so the pastor didn't have to? What if that's the way you serve more, is you invest and you teach these other people parts because you can sing parts. And not everybody on the team can always sing parts, or they can, but they got to hear it, right? There's like the learners and the hearers you have in vocalists. Just things like that too, like other ways. Maybe you aren't always delegating off of your plate, but you're identifying other things that could be delegated that you could step into, just as a thought and a challenge. We have just a couple minutes, but anybody have any fun things that they're like, oh, maybe I'll try this. Maybe I'll try delegating this. Well, I will say that I think teams that really are collaborative like this, that pour into each other, that collaborate, that develop, they build great communities. And that's what the church is, in large part, is community, and it is camaraderie, and it makes it fun. And that's when people just want to start joining because it looks fun, because it is, and it becomes this really exciting place to be. And so I hope you feel encouraged, be brave, and invite new people and go out there. You just never know. It's only a no if you never ask. And even when people say no, sometimes I'm like, oh, someday. I know it's there. I'll just wait it out with you. But just have fun and partner with people and give opportunity. It is just the coolest moment ever when you've really been partnering with people and you get to watch them like thrive and get a lead strong and do things that they're passionate about, it is cool to be a part of it yourself. But quite honestly, there's just really nothing like watching somebody else get to walk out their passions and their dreams. And those are the kind of teams people want to be on. They want to be on teams with people who believe in them, who empower them, who equip them. And so I know that we have our closing time here in just a few minutes, and I want to respect everybody else's time who's here. So we will wrap up. But I would just love if anybody else has any more questions or talk to each other. If you've got good connections in this, get their phone number. Figure out a time to meet up and learn more stuff from their church context, or I would love to talk to you. I'm a huge collaborator fan, even outside of my local church. I think it's silly to do ministry like this, just within your own church walls. So meet somebody, get their information, collaborate, even outside of your church, and learn something new. Thanks for being here. It's been awesome.